This is Privacy Chronicles podcast. Today we also have Kate as our co-host, and we have a beautiful guest, Ellie Bloor. And today's episode is called "Implementing Data Protection Culture with Ellie Bloor." Hello, Ellie. How are you?
Hello. Thank you very much for having me join you on your podcast. I'm very well, thank you.
Great. So let's start actually. And our first and very important question is really very important is as follows. Please tell us about your role in data protection and what do you actually do?
Yeah, so for the last 7 years, I've been the data protection officer for Best Companies. Best Companies exists to make the world a better workplace. It starts with our measurement, which uses an academically robust methodology. Our reports empower our clients to make informed decisions to drive improvement across their organisations, which are shared across the Best Companies community and beyond, and serve as a benchmark for best practice. As the DPO here, I'm tasked with monitoring and reporting on our organisation's compliance with the UK GDPR, the standards we uphold, such as ISO 27001. But most importantly, I'm here to embed a culture of data protection across our organisation.
Okay, thank you very much for such a great answer. Kate?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so we are talking about data culture or privacy culture, or we can name it numerous ways, and still, but what is actually the privacy culture as what we're talking about, what we're discussing? What is this the issue that we have to address, that we have special people to care for? Because when you go to the organization and say, oh, I see poor data practices in here, it is not always like they take it well. So when we are saying that, like, guys, we need to work on, for example, on our privacy culture, they don't understand what it entails. So how can we define this privacy culture thing?
Yeah, I think if you consider what my role actually is, it's about ensuring compliance with the GDPR. Now, you can't do that on your own. As much as I am responsible for ensuring those actually that the company is operating compliantly, it's not enough for responsibility for one person only to carry it out. So when we talk about having a data protection culture, it's supporting the organisation and the rest of the team members across that organisation to understand the responsibilities that they have for maintaining data protection in everything that we do. It's about supporting them in learning how to make it their priority as much as part of their job role. So they're not just seeing it as something that you do, but actually something that everybody needs to do across the organisation. When you think of the different aspects of the GDPR in terms of what the benefits are, so regulatory compliance, of course, but it's also about building trust. And if you think about your customers, your partners, any other stakeholders across the business, at the end of the day, trust sells, and organizations, especially data protection and security, are so interwoven that organizations want to work with other organizations that are doing the right thing. And that's not just obviously the ethics type, but they're actually looking after sort of the personal data that's being either transferred across them or that is being used for whatever the purpose is. And that they have got those sort of risk mitigation processes in place to ensure that they are doing what they say they're doing, that can be demonstrated. So that's why it's important, I think, in terms of ensuring that culture is there, so that everybody understands they've got a part to play.
So basically we can say that it's a state of art in some company, like how privacy things are done. Are there any privacy things? Okay, let's imagine me being a CEO of a startup or a SaaS company, and I just came into the room and say, okay, guys, girls, do we actually have privacy culture or not? What are the indicators? Tell me, please. What are the indicators?
Yeah, of course. So again, I think you've kind of touched upon it there, actually. You will always have a data protection culture. It's just whether it's a good one or a not so great one. So you will always have some sort of culture in place. If you want to try and identify how where your rating is, I suppose, in terms of actually seeing if you've got something that is actually making a difference, then start by talking to different people across the organization, not just managers and senior management team, but those that are actually on the floor doing the day-to-day tasks. you know, how transparent have you been with your processes? How much do they know where to look? How accessible are your policies? Do they know where they are, what the expectation of their role and what's expected of them? Do they realize that it's actually in their interest to know what your policies and processes are? Look at your training and awareness. Is it something that you just do as a tick box once a year? Or are you actually at a stage where you have matured your framework and you're actually involving those teams to receive individualized, customized training depending on what their job role function is or what their wider department is? Do you have that leadership commitment? Are you able to feed your leadership the stories that they need in order to be able to support the program that you're trying to implement? What audits and assessments are being carried out? And as much as, you know, depending on the size of the organization, you might have a risk team or a wider compliance team. But actually, in terms of audits, sometimes it's about eating your own dog food, as you sometimes say. Put the emphasis on the managers to actually audit their own teams and their own departments, so they're not getting those surprises. Have them checking, you know, are the processes being followed? Are spreadsheets being password protected? Are they all being stored in the correct places? You know, have them test themselves before you're coming in to sort of check their homework, if you like. When, as I said before, you can't do it all, and you need the wider organization to support you in what you're trying to do. So that's kind of some of the indicators that I would look to look for if I was looking to see how mature a framework that organization had in terms of a data protection culture.
Yeah, I agree. I really like this. You mentioned stories of some successful or non-successful privacy commitments and realizations. So this privacy culture lives in stories that are told on daily basis, like how we actually treat personal data, what happened when I don't know, tried to do some process and so on. That's a great, I think, point to be an identifier whether we do good or whether we do bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can further sort of push on that. So we sometimes talk about a data protection centric approach. So when you think about data, or when people outside of our sector think about data, they generally think of potentially names, addresses on a spreadsheet. They don't actually think about the people behind those names and those addresses. And it's not all the same type of risk. So when we talk about in our induction programs, we'll talk about, names are often thought about as a field of data, but actually it's more than that, because depending on who that individual is, a name for one person or address for somebody carries a higher risk than others. For example, somebody in a retail environment having their name and email address breached won't carry as much weight as maybe a individual within a pharmaceuticals company or a financial institute. So, and then of course, obviously the seniority of the role would also play a bigger part. So it's understanding, it's having those stories to be able to tell them what the impact is. It's not just a list of names or a list of email addresses on a spreadsheet. Actually think about what the potential personal risk is to those individuals.
Yeah. But still, when we are talking about data protection and privacy culture and in general, there's always this question, because, well, when you think about data, in particular, we are thinking about costs and benefits. Like, if we will analyze this, we will have these results, or we can predict our financial results at the end of the year, for example, or the retention period of our clients, and so on. So it usually we talk about data in terms of money or some benefit, for example, for the organization in general, or if a governmental authority, for example, and they want to share some data with the world, we're talking about some social benefit, for example, in general, like at large. But still, are there any benefits when we're talking about privacy culture that we need to install one in our organization still? What benefits will it bring? Because like the first questions that any management board will ask you, because you will come in with all these great ideas, and we understand that, well, personally they are great, but there is always this question that how we will pay for it, what will it bring to us in return. So benefits, let's talk about a little bit of benefits.
Yeah, so I think sort of when you think back to the first question you asked, trust is paramount, more so than ever. So providing customer confidence and brand reputation in terms of getting it right is
And even
really
normal cooperation between people, because if teams see that you use your personal data, like of our customers, responsibly, they are more likely to trust you, treat their work as well with respect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust is paramount to everything that we do, but it also, if you're doing it right, it leads to operational efficiency. So if you want to talk to the board about organizational health, talking about ensuring that the operational efficiency in terms of your team are confident in what they are doing, they're only having to do it once, they're not making the mistakes by not following the correct processes and either taking a longer way of doing things or trying to make their own processes up because they're not clear into, they want to do the right thing, but they're not clear in what the process is. So they start putting in their own little mitigations in terms of what they think they should be doing. Confidence leads to a boost in morale and engagement across the organisation generally. When employees feel empowered that they are able to do the right thing, then they are more productive. So you have that element of, as well as a competitive advantage as well when you are getting aspects right and when you are being really transparent and ensuring accessibility to how you do things to be able to demonstrate it. So, for example, here at Best Companies, we have a trust centre that's publicly accessible on our website. So at the point that anybody is thinking of working with us or is looking to even look to see how do they do it, let's have a look. They can go on our trust centre and they can have a look at what it is that we actually do, what mitigations we've got in place, what standards we've reached, and really sort of explain our processes in terms of what we do. Because the more open and transparent you are in terms of what it is that you're trying to do, the more ability it gives the other organisations the chance to trust you. So they're sort of in short, some of the benefits for a privacy culture.
I would mention also that if you will establish like some data practices, it will cost us little money, basically, because we have all the data in correct places. We have all the access rights that we can revoke easily because it's a part of privacy culture that you are not poking your nose into something that you are not working with. Basically, that's like, this is the basic principle. And of course, I always thought that trust centers are a good tool, for example, to say that we will spare extra costs on vendor assessments, So everything basically is on the website. You can go there and keep everything that you need for a vendor assessment. Just leave us alone.
Yeah, it for sure, it definitely reduces the amount of inquiries you get if everything is just there and available for people to go and say, oh, I need to understand this, this, and this. Oh, they've got their data processing record online, so I can easily see what it is that they're doing and be able to utilize the information that they've made public. I don't need to contact them and ask 20 questions on what they're doing and I don't understand the terms. It's all there in front of them. And I think the other things that people perhaps fall down on is the training and awareness. A lot of the time organizations go, we have to pay for it, and they have to try and balance the cost of not only paying for training and providing that training, but also the time taken for the individual out of their job in order to do it. And they see it as quite an expensive task. There are so many resources out there that are free and really good in order to be able to support your team members in terms of trying to provide them with training that is actually helping them do what it is they need to do or be better at what they do. So, for example, for developers, you might want to send them to the OWASP website, look at Juice Shop, look at WebGoat, try Hack.me, lots of really fun educational pieces that are already out there and available. There's also the Open University. They've got a really good 8-module course for Introduction to Cybersecurity. All of our privacy champions have been through those 8 modules. Again, it's free, but it's really comprehensive. For those that are decision makers within the business, we do send them on a course, but it's a course with a recognised certificate at the end of it rather than a certificate of participation. So we put them on the IT Governance EU GDPR Foundation certificate. It's a full day's course and it is time out, but they understand it that little bit better, and that helps them make informed decisions when they're coming to do that, any of the education pieces. So it's really important that your entire organization sort of embraces that data protection element. Yes, you are there to support guidance, provide guidance and best practice, and speak to clients when it's needed. But actually, if you can just empower the rest of your organization in doing great things, it can really sort of lift the opportunities across the organization.
Basically, you have to like encourage them to learn and to make them sure that it actually applies to their job, and but it is always up to them to understand how much of their job is like in scope of the GDPR, so they can educate themselves on the things that are really important for them to do right. So it is a part of general privacy compliance program, I believe.
Yeah, it is. It needs to be part. You need a privacy program that runs all year round. You can't change culture in a day, and neither is a day long enough in order to embed a advanced or mature data protection culture. You need to put yourself in a position where you can have that understanding of what's actually going on across the organization. So by doing things like a gap analysis audit, speaking to people across the organization, ensuring that your policies and procedures are accessible, all of those aspects can look to ensure that you can implement something that is effective.
Yeah, I think it's kind of paradigm shift in minds of people. So one way of behavior is, okay, I see a file, a spreadsheet with, I don't know, 1,000 data pieces of different people. Everyone got access to it. Okay, I'm fine. I just took what I wanted. And that's good. I just control. And then on the other hand, when I'm trained, when I know that it's not good, it's not all right, I ring a bell. I say, okay, guys, maybe we're doing something wrong. And in case organization reacts on it healthy, like say, okay, great, it's great that you spotted it. It may encourage people to do it, to repeat it, and so on. So I think it's a great shift of paradigm that can be reached through such training, and of course it benefits for the end users because there's less chance that their data shall be leaked. Okay, that's good. So let's imagine, okay, I'm the CEO of this company. We have done some privacy stuff. So we have privacy policy on our website, cookie policy, and it really works. Yeah, with Cookie Banner. And then I took a look at our podcast, like Privacy City podcast with Eli Bloor about implementing privacy as a culture. And I think to me, like, okay, so what is the path of implementing this privacy culture? If someone could name me 3 or 4 steps to implement this privacy culture and to walk me through it, Eli, what would be these 3 steps of implementing this privacy culture into a company? Like, can you name, like, maybe in plain words, like, okay, go here, take this, and implement. You know?
Yeah, so I mean, there is no straightforward. There's loads of resources about in terms of trying to find things in order to support you on your journey. I mean, certainly within the UK, you've got the Information Commissioner's Office. They've got a wealth of documentation and knowledge in terms of what it is that you need to be doing. But actually, in terms of the actual culture itself, it does take time. I've been here 7 years. It's something that you have to keep maintaining, keep switching it out, finding new ways to tell those stories, to engage with individuals, to help them understand that actually by working with you, they're actually shifting. It helps them with their own priorities, and they having to do things once and not getting things wrong, or having to spend time on something else because there's been an incident, a security incident or something like that, which takes time away from their own job. I think it's really important to think about the language that you use. You know, we're not the data protection police. We are not there to come and tell people off. That's not our job. We're there to support the organisation. I had an individual not so long ago who had moved on for our business. They messaged me to say that they'd obviously, I knew they'd left the business and they got the new job, but they messaged me to thank me that the knowledge that they had gained just through being more aware of data protection and the rules around it had actually led them to getting the job that they got within so they're nothing to do with data protection or compliance. They were going into a developer field, but having that basic knowledge in terms of sort of privacy by design and default, thinking about data protection, understanding the trust aspects in terms of customer confidence, and sort of having the right idea of in sort of not just looking to do the right thing for themselves, but how it benefits the organization. Being able to talk about all of that within their interview had got them the job over individuals that actually were potentially better qualified. You can teach skills, but actually having some of those understandings of something that wouldn't necessarily be that's my responsibility, data protection is my responsibility, you know, being evolved, having that little bit of extra understanding, it can make such a difference to your organization by having people think that way, and accepting the sort of responsibility of trying to put something in place. So it's those sorts of elements really, as I said before, about having those regular assessments. Don't just feel like it's only you that has to do them. Put it forward so that other people can look for the errors or the mistakes or things not quite working. So if a manager finds things wrong in their folder, it's a lot easier for them to have the conversation with their team and go, look, what's not working? Why are we not able to follow this process? Why is it a lack of resource? Is there something? Is it not documented correctly? Is it too long a process? They can have those conversations then and look to work with your compliance or data protection team to improve them and enhance them. Do we need to look at technology and look at different ways of doing it? Because, you know, technology does not solve all everything. You know, there are gaps in technology that we become the first line of defense, if you like, as individuals within the workforce. It's not perfect. We have to sort of be there to sort of ensure that we are spotting where it's going wrong. So it's, yeah, we're always going to need individuals across the organization to take responsibility for those sorts of aspects.
Yeah, thank you for the chance. A great story about this developer who actually found a new job because of like mutual privacy values. Yeah, so when you hire someone and you know that he's or she is already in like the same understanding, the same mind stage about all this privacy stuff, it actually benefits such a person because we don't have to onboard him with this long privacy way, but he or she can also bring to our table some new privacy knowledge that will benefit us as well. That's a great example of as it is. Yeah, thanks.
But still, Anton, it's not like they always see it as an example advantage. Sometimes, for example, software engineers teams, they are very reluctant to do anything about the awareness in privacy and data protection because they're like, it is your job to care for that. Why am I must be here in this process? I have a lot of work to do already. Please don't pile up another work for me. So it is always the need of, well, maybe inspiration to make them go there and explore that there is a lot of knowledge they don't have really. Another stock of skills, like Ellie said, that they have to develop. Like sometimes even some of them are asking, what is a secure programming or secure coding? Is this really a thing? So sometimes it's like a privacy lawyer has to inspire them somehow. So Ellie, from your experience, how can you make these people go sit and listen to the GDPR training or read a piece about the GDPR or privacy in general? How can you motivate them to do that?
Yeah, and that is the key word in terms of motivating people to sort of understand how the differences and impacts that they can make. So you really need to create a supportive environment that people can be honest and that they can come forward to you. We've not, certainly for my own job title, it is not the most friendliest of titles. Data protection officer doesn't sort of invoke you into going to have a conversation with someone. So I meet every single person within the organization when they start. I introduce myself as Ellie. I don't get bogged down by job titles and things like that. As long as they have an understanding of what it is that I am there for in terms of to support them, provide guidance. And our privacy champions, when we look to introduce them, we're very careful about the language that is used there as well. So they're not our eyes and ears. Going into their departments and listening out, ready to come and tell tales when something's going wrong. There again, they're there to support and provide guidance. And when they need to think about data protection, hopefully there is somebody on the department who'll go, oh, I think we need to involve, we're using data in a new way. You know, it's evolved more from, well, we have this data, so we can use it for this purpose. It's having that realization we're about to use it for a new purpose. Yes, we have that data. We need to involve Ellie. We need to look at writing a data protection impact assessment. Let's have a go. Let's put it out. This is set out what it is that we want to do. So having them realize actually by getting it right first time and not trying to double back, there's a lot of aspects in terms of, I hear it in some of the other industries in terms it's better to beg for forgiveness than gain consent. And I think if people are scared to ask in the first place, ask those questions, let's get it right first time, then it causes so many more problems in the future. So when people do make that effort, it's really important that you acknowledge that, yes, well done, you've thought about it, that's great, let me help you in terms of ensuring that you are doing what's necessary in order to meet with our commitments. And I think the other thing that we need to be aware of really is not to see people as a threat. So when people are coming in, or if they've learned something extra, they are, there's a syndrome called tall poppy syndrome, and it's when you see people who are growing or doing really well, that people can have this ability to come in and sort of chop them down and stop them from growing. Organizations are all for empowering individuals. You've probably heard of growth mindset and things like this. So allowing that growth to continue and allowing it to be infectious so that other people can see other people grow and go, I want to do that too. How do I move forward? How do I gain that knowledge? Supporting everybody to be their best selves is so important. So in terms of motivation, trying to allow people to see the benefits, how it ties in with their priorities, how it benefits them personally, and not just for themselves, but they can take information that they can share with their parents, with their siblings, that's, giving them the stories in order to be able to help everybody. It helps lift an industry. It really does. So talk to people. I suppose that's probably the biggest way of motivating people, is talk to them, understand their concerns, what their problems are, how can you support them, and then they will support you.
So you must have this balance between friendliness and, well, starts with fines. Very carefully weighted,
That's it. It's just having, it's okay to say no. I think that's the important aspect. You can be, a friend is somebody who can tell you the truth. So you don't need to be saying yes to everything. And, there is those "it depends" words that you hear so often in our sector. But actually, if you want to give honest and transparent advice and you want people to trust you, you need to be able to say when something's not right or something needs to be changed. And that's, one of our key pieces of skills in our job role. I think it's being able to provide balance. It's not to sort of, you'll have noticed throughout the whole thing, I've not once said anything about penalties or fines or anything like that. We're not trying to scare people into doing the right thing, because actually long-term that doesn't support behavioural change, which is what we want. You need to help people in terms of being able to do the right thing because they want to do the right thing. And I think most people do care about the job they do. They want to do a good job. They want to be seen to be doing a good job. So we just need to recognise and support that, really.
So just to gaslight them, if you don't do this, you are a bad professional,
Yeah, don't go there finger waving.
Well, yeah, I think that nowadays when we talked about engineers a bit, and I thought about this all LLMs and models and AI like boom today, and we have like new professions, like occupations like machine learning engineers, data architects, and their job is also to know and understand the data, and in their jobs the impact of data protection is rather bigger, maybe sometimes, than engineering. I don't know. I believe that it's very important to communicate with them and to make them believe that knowledge of data protection will make them actually better professionals and will help the projects to be more successful. It's very important. So our last question to you today. So I hope so, that many data protection officers are watching our show, And imagine me, and now I am this data protection officer in those SaaS company I mentioned. I came, the CEO hired me, and I try to push all this privacy data protection culture all around my organization, and people just turning away from me. I come with coffee and they say something like, "Okay, Anton, so who are you, officer? What do you protect? Data? Okay, bye." And then they do something and I don't know about it. And what should I do? How may I, maybe some little advice to overcome all this stuff and to become effective, really effective, so in my organization?
Yeah, so I think you need to be a living example of what you're trying to achieve. You've got to do what you say you do, tell everybody else to. It's not one rule for them and one rule for yourself. You also need to be your own cheerleader. I think there's you've heard of imposter syndrome, and hopefully the audience have heard about imposter syndrome. And I think certainly within the UK, there is an aspect that not always cheerleading yourself is somehow seen as an air of being humble. But I think instead it's not thinking less of yourself, it's just thinking of yourself less. So where you have that knowledge and you have that skill set and you know stuff, be confident and say, actually, it's this. But equally, be vulnerable. So if you do not know and you need to go away and find out, ensure that that is what you say. And that will allow other people within your business where they aren't sure to go away. It's okay to go away and check. You don't have to know everything. You're never going to know anything. Sorry, not know anything. You'll definitely know stuff, but you'll never know everything.
Sure.
Is the best way of putting it. Again, think about your language. You know, we're not there to sort of put people down or be. You know, we don't want to be seen as a blocker. We want to be seen as a builder, and then look for ways in which we can help them do what they need to achieve, but in a way that is compliant. And as I've said before, acknowledge somebody's efforts when they've taken the time to come to you, when they've taken the time to fill in a data protection impact assessment. Don't just go in spotting all the mistakes and things that they've got wrong. Take the time to go, you've done some really good things here. This, and this. These are definitely the things we can look to expand on, or we can look to work on, or if you thought about these, or if you discussed these aspects in department, look to be really take a positive approach to what it is that they're trying to do. Don't see them as a threat. Look to educate and empower your teams, and look to integrate data protection business processes with that privacy by design and default. And then I think you're having a good way then of pushing data protection as a culture into your organization.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a great advice of being vulnerable. So it's great to say, really, that I don't know this, because someone can ask, okay, we are expanding our business to a country. You don't know even the name of this country. What about data protection there? Oh, well, it depends. Yeah, so for sure.
There you go. You see our favorite 2 words. It depends. But
for
yeah,
sure it's okay to say something like that. Yeah,
no, absolutely. If you don't know, it's okay to say you don't know. You know, nobody expects you to actually know everything about everything.
Yeah, it's impossible because everything is so dynamic, and you in US or in UK or anywhere actually. So new laws or new regulations, new guidances, and all that stuff. You say, oh, okay, let's take a look.
The landscape changes all the time, especially in data protection. There's new legislation coming out all the time. There are differences. You know, look at the US, there's differences state to state, never mind looking at country to country. So yeah, it is. It's really important that you do take that sort of time to acknowledge there are differences, acknowledge that you don't know everything, and it's okay to sort of take a step back and find out the answer and come back.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for your time today. It was a great discussion. I believe we helped a lot of people to go through maybe their doubts about being good or bad privacy officer, like a data protection officer. And I believe that today is the start of their path of being even better and pushing privacy culture beyond any expectations. And on the sky is the limit. Yes.
I have very positive vibe. And if anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn or have a conversation, they're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Kate, maybe some last words of this episode.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. to you both for having me on and inviting me to share. I think it is very, very important that as an industry we do support each other. We're usually only one person in an organization or part of a very small team. So it's really important that we all know that we are here to help each other out and sort of have that community spirit. Thank you.
It is important to reach out outside of your organization just to understand how things are going for others. So to exchange some ideas, for example, to get a broader scope and overview of everything that is going on in this landscape, because everything changes so quickly. Like today, our data scientists use this tool, and tomorrow it will be absolutely another one. So sometimes you are just behind your schedule, not because you are a bad specialist, but because they failed to notify you that they changed essentially half of their database, basically, for example. So it happened just overnight, you know.
It's really important to not be scared to get involved and to ask those questions. Don't assume that they know everything about their job either. You are perfectly entitled to ask great questions. Just think about the question that you're going to ask, and are you delivering it in a way that doesn't seem to be a bit blunt or direct. But it is okay to ask questions. You know, you are allowed professional curiosity. So I would, go down that line. Help people before they
The
go.
most important question of this podcast episode, like don't forget to ask people how they are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Ask people if they're okay and how they're getting on. Don't allow them to just sit there getting stressed over something. It's one of the best parts, I think, of our role is that we do get to know so many people across our organization, and we are there to potentially support them. And if there is a security incident or something's gone wrong, that we are that sort of support network that they can go to. We're not seen as a scary person in a corner that they're going to have to go and fess up to. We're there to help for sure.
Yeah, that's sure. So thank you. It was absolute pleasure to talk to you, Ellie.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Stay with us, we'll lead forward.